Hello and welcome back to the Common Mistakes training series. Today we're going to be looking at abdominal training and the most common mistakes I see when training my clients or watching people perform ab exercises. Now I'm going to preface this video by saying that if you do have a lot of body fat to lose and you think that by simply performing a bunch of ab exercises you're going to magically lose fat around your midsection, you're mistaken. By this point it's pretty well agreed upon that you lose deposits of body fat that's really out of your control. That's largely dependent on your genetics and your hormones. So the best way to lose deposits of fat overall in your body are to place yourself in a calorie deficit in which you're expending more calories than you're taking in, and having a very solid and intelligent exercise program where you're prioritizing the most demanding and strenuous exercises. So you want to think of a chest press, a row, pull-ups, squats. These are the exercises that are going to burn the most calories and facilitate placing you in a caloric deficit over time. Now, that's not to say that ab training is useless. I think there's a place for it in your program, but I think that the majority of your time and your focus and your energy when you're in the gym should be towards performing those exercises that I just mentioned, and then sprinkling on these ab exercises as accessories and as an afterthought after you've prioritized those big compound movements. It's definitely important from an aesthetic perspective. We want a nice defined thick six-pack, and also from a functional perspective, having a strong core helps support all of the exercises that we're going to do in the gym and help us to brace and have a nice solid structure as we're performing them. So we're going to start going through these exercises. I've picked 4 exercises which really are the most commonly used, and for me they're the most effective ab exercises at developing the six-pack. So here we go. We're going to get started. All right, so the first exercise that we're going to look at here is a Bosu ball crunch. I'm going to show you the most common mistakes I see and then how to correct it to make it the most effective to really target this rectus abdominis six-pack area. Okay, so first off, when you set up for this exercise, you want to make sure that your lower back is cradled by the ball. You don't want to be sitting up too high on the ball, or else you're going to lose balance and fly off the other side. So we want to sit low enough to the point where our lower back is cradled, and then the biggest focus here is really on flexing the spine here. These six-pack muscles are responsible for spinal flexion. So what you want to do is stretch your body over the ball as you take an inhale through your nose, and then you want to exhale and flex the spine and pause at the top of the movement. You want to think of bringing your sternum and your belly button closer together. Exhaling and pausing. One of the most common mistakes I see is people just sitting up, and there's very, very little flexion of the spine. And if you do them in that manner, you're not letting the abs work to their full function of what they're capable of. And that's going to limit your ability to develop them overall. So I'm going to show you once more. We want to stretch the abdominal wall over the ball. So we're lengthening the spine. We're going to exhale and think of bringing the sternum and the belly button closer together. Pausing at the top of the motion. It's not a ballistic motion. There's no momentum. Pausing as you exhale all the air through the mouth. Okay? So this is how you should be performing this exercise, and it really, as simple as it is, I found through the years, it's really one of the most effective exercises at hitting your rectus abdominis area, the six-pack area, just because it's really utilizing one of the main functions of that muscle in the first place. So try this out, and I guarantee you it's going to be very, very effective for you. Okay, so the next exercise that we're going to be looking at here is going to be a rope crunch. Now, right off the bat, one of the most common mistakes I see is people using way too much weight and overcompensating with the arms. A lot of people complain that they only feel this in their arms, their shoulders, and their biceps, and that's typically because they're using too much weight and they're moving too fast. So first off, you want to find a weight that you can control and really feel your abs working through the range of motion. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate here the improper way to perform this exercise first. So what I see a lot of times is people grab the rope and their arms are very tense. They're using their arms to pull the rope down, and they're getting very little flexion of the spine. They're just coming straight to the floor. They're feeling a lot of work in their arms, and pretty much nothing here in the six pack. So I'm going to demonstrate now how to properly perform this exercise and a couple of cues that you can use to help you learn this movement and make it very, very effective. Because honestly, I'd probably credit this exercise to most of my abdominal development. It's really that good once you nail it. So we're going to start with the ropes at about the level of your head. And then the main thing here is to think of your hands merely as hooks. We don't want so much tension here in the arms. We want to think of exhaling as we exert force as we go down, and we want to bring our elbows towards our knees. So once again, just like the Bosu ball exercise, we're executing spinal flexion. Exhale and pause. Inhale through your nose. Exhale, pull with your abs, not your arms. Think of your arms merely as hooks. Exhale, blow out hard and pause. Inhale as you come up. Exhale, flex the spine. We don't want much movement at the hips here. We want to keep the hips stationary. We don't want the hip flexors working here. It's only the abs. So exhale, pause at the bottom, inhale on the way up. Okay, so that's the rope crunch. Try this one out and you're gonna start seeing a lot of gains in your ab training. Okay, so now we're gonna be looking at a hanging leg raise, a very, very effective exercise for developing your core if you do it right. But there's a lot of common mistakes I see. I find that this is one of the exercises that people screw up the most just because it's pretty demanding and advanced exercise. I'll say you'll need a considerable amount of strength in your arms just to hold yourself up in the first place, and in the abs as well to actually perform the motion properly. So I'm going to show you guys what I see, the common mistakes I see oftentimes, and then how to correct it. So what I see a lot just first off the bat is a lot of momentum. So people are holding themselves up here, but there's a lot of swinging. People are swinging all over the place and they're not stabilizing their trunk. So they're all over the place. And that's the first mistake, right? So to start off the exercise, you wanna come up, hang yourself from the bar, and tense your midsection and stabilize yourself. There should be minimal movement here throughout the entirety of the exercise, okay? So that's number one. Now the second thing I'm gonna say is people are working in such a limited range of motion that they're really only working their hip flexors. Now there's nothing wrong with strengthening your hip flexors, but when the intention's to work your abs, and you're thinking that you're working your abs, but really when you're doing a limited range of motion, the only thing that's getting worked is your hip flexors. You're not bringing your pelvis up high enough to actually stimulate your abs. So a lot of people, what they'll do is if they do the leg raise, they'll stop about here, right? They'll stop about here and they'll do their reps like this. Now your abs are definitely going to get some work. They're getting work to some extent, but from here to here, it's really just a lot of hip flexors. Okay, so I just did that set and I felt my abs work to some extent, but it was a lot of feeling here into my hip flexors. So what I'd recommend, especially if you're starting off and you're able to stabilize yourself in the first place and keep yourself from rocking back and forth, is keep your legs bent. So maintain the legs bent during the entire exercise. I'm gonna show you how to do this. So we're gonna come up on the bar again. We're gonna bend the legs, and what we wanna focus on is rotating the knees towards the chest and slowly coming down. Rotating the knees to the chest and slowly coming down. We need to have a rotation of the pelvis in order to fully work the abs. You can think of this as bringing the knees towards the chest and lifting the butt. Now I really feel my abs. Okay? So that's how you should be doing this exercise. That's gonna work your abs very, very directly and intensely. So practice that motion, take it slow. Start by just hanging from the bar, getting stable, minimizing momentum, and then slowly working on keeping your legs bent and bringing it up towards your chest and slowly back down to the floor. All right, so the last exercise that we're gonna be looking at here and dissecting is going to be the reverse crunch done on the floor. You could do it on a bench also. The tips are the same. It's going to apply whether you do this on the floor or on a bench. So, setting up for this, I like to keep my hands held on a pillar or something stable behind me. And I also like to do this with my legs in a flexed position. I just find I get more out of my abs when I maintain a bent leg. Although you could do this with straight legs also, it's up to you, but I'm gonna show you the bent leg version. So when I'm coaching this exercise, when people first start doing it, what I often see is that there's a lot of this. There's just a lot of jerking of the hips. Again, you're overworking your hip flexors, and there's not a lot of work on the abs. You're not allowing the abs to just get worked and hold your torso in that position. So what you want to think of doing, instead of just thinking of lifting your hips to the air, is thinking of slowly bringing your knees towards your chest. So we're going to roll the knees towards the chest and slowly lift my bottom vertebrae off the ground and slowly come back down to the floor. Right before the feet touch the floor, we're going to ascend again. Exhale as you come up, inhale as you go down. Keep your legs bent, exhale. You notice I'm not lifting off the ground too much. I'm just pulling my feet towards my chest to the point where my pelvis comes off the floor a little bit. I pause and come down. Exhale, pause and come down. Okay, I would say that if you're not yet at the point where you can do those hanging leg raises that I just demonstrated, start with these and get really strong on these. And then you can even add weight to these. You can hold a ball in between your thighs and progress that way. And then eventually you'll be able to get up on the bar and do those hanging leg raises. But try this out, and remember, it's a pretty subtle movement. You don't need to be lifting your hips way off the ground. It's more of a rotation, a curling exercise. Thinking of it that way is going to be really helpful. All right, so that's going to conclude today's episode of the Most Common Mistakes series, Abdominal Edition. I hope these tips help you fortify your core and help bring out your six-pack. Just keep in mind those points that I made at the beginning, that really your genetics and your hormones really are the main contributors to where you're going to lose fat on your body. You can't really choose that yourself. So you're giving yourself the best chance at losing the most amount of body fat if your dietary protocol is sound and you're tracking how many calories you're eating and expending, and also you're just prioritizing the most strenuous and demanding exercises during your sessions. Okay, I hope this video helped. If there's any extra tips you need or a video you'd like me to make in the future, just please leave that in the comments below. Thank you so much.